Welcome back. Have you ever told a girl she was pretty and watched her eyes flicker over you like you'd just copied and pasted a script from 100 other men? Because you have. She's heard it 1,000 times. From friends, from strangers, from a friendly shipper, and sometimes from herself in the mirror. Here's the truth. Surface compliments last only a few seconds. But internal compliments, the ones she didn't expect but secretly craved, live forever in her head. And no, they don't come from honeycomb or tricks. They come from something most men never use: observation, understanding, and the courage to say what she's trying to hide. Today, we're not learning how to compliment to score points. We will learn how to look so that she will never forget you. Number 1. Surface compliments fade, but inner recognition stays forever. She's heard it before. You're beautiful. Your eyes are mesmerizing. You look amazing tonight. From men on the street, from well-meaning friends, from guys who don't even know her last name. And what do those compliments do? Maybe they make her smile for a moment. Maybe they give her a fleeting sense of validation. But by the next hour or the next man, they're already forgotten. Because surface compliments are like sugar, instant, addictive, and ultimately empty. What she's starving for is something else, something deeper. Not admiration of her appearance, but recognition of her essence. A man who sees past the makeup and the smile and catches the subtle signs, the way her eyes go quiet when the room gets loud. The way she overthinks simple things because no one ever gave her space to feel safe. The way she reads to escape, not to impress. That's the compliment that lands. The one that says, "I see you," not just the version of you that the world applauds. Psychologically, this goes deeper than just preference. According to the research of Rice and Shaver, 1988, true intimacy and emotional connection are built not on admiration of traits, but on being understood. Compliments about appearance trigger temporary dopamine, but being seen at the level of thought, values, or hidden struggle triggers trust. And trust is what turns interest into obsession. This is why the most unforgettable compliments often sound quiet, almost uncertain. They don't carry the loud applause of "you're gorgeous." They carry the careful tone of "I can tell you carry a lot and you do it with grace." It's not flattery, it's observation. It doesn't chase a reaction, it offers respect. And here's the twist. When you compliment her inner world, she doesn't know what to do with it. Not because she doesn't like it, but because so few men have ever earned the right to say it. Most men hand out compliments like cheap flyers hoping for attention. But when you give her a truth she's never heard, but has always hoped someone would see, you leave her haunted. And that's the power of genuine recognition. This isn't about being poetic, it's about being present. It's about slowing down long enough to notice the way she closes herself off when something emotional comes up. The way she avoids compliments because they've always felt transactional. The way she flinches at praise because no one ever told her she was enough without asking for something in return. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look beneath the surface, let not the merely outward draw thee." And that applies to how you see her. Don't be drawn to what's already been noticed. Be drawn to what's been hidden. And if you have the presence to notice it and the courage to speak it, do it without trying to impress. Speak it like you'd speak to the wind, calm, clear, real. Instead of, "You look stunning, try. You seem like you carry quiet strength, like you've learned to stand still when everything else falls apart." You're not guessing. You're revealing, and when she hears that, she won't forget it. Not because it made her feel pretty, but because it made her feel understood. In the modern world, where attention is cheap and everyone's shouting to be heard, the man who sees quietly, clearly, deeply is the one she remembers. So stop complimenting what's obvious. Start honoring what's real. She doesn't want more attention. She wants recognition. Number 2, compliment what she hides. That's where her soul lives. She walks into the room and you notice her smile. So does everyone else. You notice her outfit, her hair, her laugh. So does everyone else. But here's the question most men never ask. What's she hiding beneath all that? Because women, especially the ones who feel deeply, often keep the most beautiful parts of themselves tucked just beneath the surface. Not because they're trying to be mysterious, but because they've learned that most people only notice what's loud. And the deepest parts of a woman are usually quiet. She edits her messages 3 times before hitting send. She zones out mid-conversation, not out of disinterest, but because her mind runs deeper than she lets on. She's calm in a loud room, not because she's shy, but because her peace is something she protects. You'll miss all of this if you only look for what's obvious. And that's where most men fail. They compliment what's been complimented 1,000 times before. You're beautiful. You've got a great smile. You seem really fun. But none of that reaches her, because what she's dying to hear isn't about how she looks. It's about who she is when no one's watching. Psychology backs this up. According to Kahneman's theory of attention, 1973, people assign greater emotional value to things that are subtle, personal, and observed with genuine care. And women, they feel that attention instantly. When a man notices what she thought was invisible, her defenses don't just drop, they melt. That's why a compliment like, "You're pretty," might make her smile politely. But a compliment like, "I noticed how you breathe a little slower before you speak, like you really care about getting your words right," will stop her in her tracks. Because that's something no one else saw, and that feels like being known. Let's bring this into real life. You're texting a woman and you notice she types, then pauses, deletes, retypes. Don't ignore that. Say, "I can tell you think carefully before you send something." That says a lot about your honesty. I respect that. Or maybe you're out and she's quiet in a loud crowd. Most guys will ask, "Are you okay?" But you can say, "You bring this calm energy into chaos," like the world can be spinning and you still hold your center. That kind of compliment doesn't flatter. It validates. It mirrors the part of her that she guards. And when you do that, you don't just get her attention, you earn her trust. As Epictetus once taught, pay attention to what's within your control and observe carefully what belongs to others. In other words, be still enough to see, not to analyze, not to judge, just to witness what's real beneath what's presented. Women don't want a man who stares. They want a man who sees. So slow down. Look deeper. Compliment the crease in her brow when she's focused, the way her voice softens when she talks about something that matters, the way she listens more than she speaks, because these aren't traits designed to impress, they're expressions of who she really is. And when you can see that and name it, you give her the rarest gift in the modern world, to be understood without having to explain. Number 3, a compliment should acknowledge, not rescue. She opens up, quietly, hesitantly. Maybe it's about her anxiety, maybe about a complicated family or something she's still healing from. And your first instinct is to make her feel better, to say, "You're strong," or "Don't worry, you'll get through it." Maybe even offer a solution, something to fix what hurts. But she doesn't need a fixer. What she's really looking for is someone who sees her without trying to save her. Someone who doesn't turn her wounds into projects, but into proof of her quiet resilience. Because here's what most men don't realize. When a woman shares her pain, she's not asking to be patched up. She's asking to be witnessed. She doesn't want reassurance. She wants recognition. The compliment that changes everything isn't the one that tells her she'll be okay. It's the one that tells her she already is. According to positive psychology, particularly the work of Seligman 2002, real emotional connection doesn't come from solving someone's pain. It comes from honoring how they've endured it, from noticing the strength it takes to still be kind after everything. from seeing the beauty in how she keeps going even with fear in her chest. So the next time she tells you about the ache in her heart, don't say, "You're strong, you've got this." Say, "I can't imagine what that's like," but the way you carry it with so much care and softness that says everything about who you are. You're not praising the pain, you're honoring the way she lives with it. And when you say something like, "You've protected your heart so carefully, yet you still let people in," that's rare. You're not just giving her a compliment, you're giving her space to breathe, to feel seen without being labeled broken, because that's the real compliment. One that doesn't hover over her with pity or hope, but meets her where she is with quiet admiration. Empathy, as Davis 1983 found in his research, fosters trust far more deeply than unsolicited advice. It builds emotional intimacy through presence, not pressure. And that's exactly what Stoic wisdom teaches us as well. Seneca once wrote, "Look at things as they are, nothing more, nothing less." In other words, don't embellish her strength. Don't downplay her struggle. See her clearly, reflect it gently, and resist the urge to fix what was never yours to repair. She doesn't need salvation, she needs recognition. So when she reveals her scars, don't bring bandages. Bring awareness, bring stillness, bring that rare kind of strength that says, "I see what you've been through, and I see who you are because of it." That kind of compliment doesn't disappear, it lingers, because in a world where everyone rushes to solve, the man who calmly sees her truth and leaves it whole is the one she'll never forget. Number 4, a real compliment needs no return. She's standing across the room, quiet, observant. There's something in her posture, still but alert, like her mind never truly rests, like she's constantly scanning, sensing, calculating the emotional weather. You don't say anything yet. You just watch. You just notice. Then, at the right moment, you say, "I get the feeling your mind doesn't rest easily. It's beautiful and dangerous." And then, nothing. You don't wait for a smile. You don't search her eyes for validation. You don't expect her to be impressed. You just drop the truth and let it breathe. That's the difference between a compliment that lands in her soul and one that evaporates on her skin. Too many men treat compliments like currency. "You're pretty, so have dinner with me. You're amazing, so why aren't you texting back?" These aren't compliments, they're bids, and bids always come with strings. But the moment a woman senses a hook in expectation, a hidden agenda, a need to impress, she pulls away. Not because she's cruel, but because her nervous system is wired for discernment. Women have evolved to detect intent faster than most men can form a sentence. And if your compliment is secretly about getting something in return, she'll feel it. Real compliments aren't like that. They're rare because they don't seek reward. They come from observation, not strategy, from stillness, not persuasion. And that's why they linger, because in a world full of flattery meant to manipulate, a compliment given with no desire to control feels disarming. It's a form of emotional generosity, a gift without condition. According to psychological research on authentic communication, Gottman, 1994, the most impactful interactions are those free from manipulation or expectation. When your words are clean, they build trust. When they're loaded with subtext, they do the opposite. So how do you use this? Simple. Pay attention. Watch her when she thinks no one is watching. Catch the moment she softens when she talks about something vulnerable. When she shares something dark and doesn't try to sugarcoat it. You don't interrupt with reassurance or flattery. You say, "That must have taken a lot to carry," and then you let it land. Or when you see her sitting quietly in a crowded space, scanning the room, not trying to be noticed, you say, "There's something about the way you sit with silence, like you trust it more than most people trust noise." Then say nothing more. Let the compliment speak. Let it echo. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do every act of your life as though it were the very last." And that applies to your words, Don't compliment to impress. Compliment because it's true, because it's yours. And then release it like an arrow that doesn't need to hit anything, just to fly. That's the kind of compliment that stays with her, not because she had to answer it, but because for once a man didn't try to charm her. He just saw her. And in a world full of performers, that kind of presence is unforgettable. So the next time you speak truth to a woman, say it clean, then walk away. Because the most haunting words are the ones that expected nothing, yet changed everything. Number 5, the compliment that raises her standard for love. There are moments in life when a single sentence shifts the entire way someone sees themselves and others. You say something so precise, so quietly powerful, that it doesn't just flatter, it awakens. You're sitting across from her in a noisy place. Everyone's trying to be heard, everyone's raising their voice. But she sits calmly, not withdrawn, not invisible, just present. She doesn't fight for attention, but somehow commands it. And you lean in, not because you're trying to be clever, but because you actually noticed. You say, "You hold peace in a room full of noise. I respect that." She doesn't know what to say, not because she's shy, but because no one's ever seen that part of her before. It's not the compliment she expected, and that's what makes it unforgettable. That's what makes her remember you when she's alone later, comparing how that sentence made her feel to all the other compliments that never quite landed. Psychologically, what you just did is create the Pygmalion effect, a principle from Rosenthal and Jacobson's research in 1968, showing that people tend to rise to the expectations others have of them, especially when those expectations are positive, respectful, and subtle. When you reflect back a deeper quality in her, you're not just noticing her, you're telling her, "This is who you are, this is what I see in you," and most importantly, it's likely more than she's seen in herself. That's the true gift of a real compliment. It elevates, it pulls her attention away from the shallow validation she's used to the ones about her lips, or her dress, or how good she looks on Instagram, and it draws her into something deeper, something she didn't know she craved until you offered it. Resonance. From that moment on, her standard shifts. She may not tell you, but she will begin to feel emotionally disconnected from men who only notice the surface, because you've done something rare. You've made her feel valuable for who she is beneath the performance. And that kind of recognition? It's addictive. Not in a manipulative way, but in a soul-affirming way. So how do you apply this? You watch for the hidden traits. The inner strength she doesn't brag about, the restraint she uses when her family gets chaotic, the depth behind her indecision, the moments she sacrifices her voice to keep peace, and you name it with precision. You don't say it to impress her, you say it because it's true, and then you let it go. You don't expect a thank you. You don't wait for her to fall into your arms. You trust that your honesty already did more than enough. Epictetus said, "Do the right thing, let the outcome follow." A genuine compliment is exactly that. It's not bait, it's not strategy, it's an act of masculine presence, a moment of clarity offered in a world addicted to noise. And when you speak to her this way, you don't just connect. You inspire her to become more of the woman you saw in the first place. That's power. That's attraction without effort. That's how one sentence can change everything. Now tell me, have you ever said something to a woman that changed the way she looked at you forever? Comment below. I see what most men miss. Number 6. Why observing her without judging changes everything. If you want to give a woman a compliment that lingers not for minutes but for days, you need to stop labeling her. You need to observe, not define. You need to see her, not sum her up. Most men think compliments are about delivering a verdict. You're beautiful, you're strong, you're kind. But those are not observations, they're conclusions. And conclusions are walls. They box her in. They leave no room for her to unfold. Now, here's the truth that few men understand. A woman doesn't want to be told who she is. She wants to feel that you're witnessing her become. And that requires stillness, attention, a kind of presence that most men are too impatient to practice. Let's take a simple moment. You're out with her and she's quiet, scanning the room. Most men might joke, "You're shy, huh?" Or worse, try to fix it by pulling her into small talk. But you lean back and say something like, "I notice you tend to observe before speaking, like you're listening for something others miss. I respect that. That's not a judgment, that's a mirror. You've reflected what is, not what you want it to be. And here's why it matters. Carl Rogers, one of the founding voices in modern psychology, defined real connection as non-judgmental empathy, the ability to be fully present with someone without trying to change, correct, or define them. Because when you judge even positively, you subtly make her feel like she has to live up to that image. Telling her she's strong may seem like a compliment, but what happens when she doesn't feel strong? Now she's trapped. Now she has to perform. And eventually she'll resent you for putting her in a box labeled resilient. But when you observe genuinely, silently, and without motive, you give her something no one else does. Space to just be. Psychologically, this hits something deep. When a woman feels observed without judgment, her nervous system relaxes, her guard drops, she feels seen without pressure, safe without needing to prove anything. That's the moment she begins to trust you, not because you impressed her, but because you didn't try to own her truth, you just honored it. So how do you practice this in real life? It's simple. Notice, reflect, but don't label. If she shares a difficult decision, don't say, "You're so careful," or "You're indecisive." Say, "I can see you really value getting things right." That takes depth. If she's quiet at a dinner party, don't say, "You're shy." Say, "I noticed you taking it all in," like you're reading the energy in the room. That's rare. And then stop. Let your words breathe. Let her interpret what it meant, because that's where the magic lives. Not in how you name her, but in how you free her to feel seen without expectation. Marcus Aurelius once said, "See things as they are, not as your fear or desire would paint them." The same goes for people, especially women. The deeper parts of her aren't waiting to be judged. They're waiting to be gently noticed. And that is what makes your words unforgettable. Now, take a moment and ask yourself, have you ever truly seen a woman without trying to define her? Comment below, "I observe without judgment." Number 7, the silent power after the compliment. Most men think words do the work. They believe the magic is in the sentence, the phrasing, the charm. But they forget one thing often more powerful than the compliment itself is the silence that follows. See, when you give a woman a compliment that touches her soul, your job isn't to explain it or rush to see how she feels. Your job is to leave space, because space is where the truth settles. It's where your words stop being just language and become emotion. Imagine you tell her, "I see a kind of peace in you that most people never find even in the middle of chaos." Then you stop. You don't smile nervously. You don't fill the air with jokes. You hold eye contact, breathe, and let the silence do what words cannot. In that quiet moment, something rare happens. She begins to feel seen, not by a man trying to win her over, but by someone still enough to witness her. This is the power of intentional silence. Psychologically, we're wired to process meaning in stillness. According to research on emotional communication, intentional silence, especially after a meaningful message, triggers self-reflection. It allows the other person to absorb, interpret, and internalize what was said. Knapp et al., 2014. In relationships, this type of pause creates intimacy. It says, I don't need a reaction. I trust the truth of what I said, and I trust you enough to feel it in your own time. And that's rare, because most people chase validation. They give a compliment and wait for the smile, the thank you, the return compliment. But the moment you wait for something in return, you've made the compliment about you, not her. You've turned something sacred into a transaction. But when you remain still, when you let the silence breathe, you show self-mastery, presence, the kind of masculine calm that's harder to find than gold. Let's ground this in a practical example. You're with her. She opens up about how she always tries to keep peace in her family, even when it means swallowing her own voice. Most guys would say, "Wow, that's amazing, you're such a good person," and then awkwardly shift the topic. But you say, "I can see you've carried a lot silently and still kept your softness intact." That's not weakness, that's rare strength. And then you say, "Nothing more. Let it land, let her process." That's when the compliment isn't just heard, it's felt. This isn't passive silence, it's purposeful, controlled, like a musician who knows when not to play, like a Stoic who doesn't speak unless the words improve the stillness. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In a world that rushes to react, silence is presence, it's patience, and most importantly, it's respect. When you give her space after a compliment, you're saying, "I trust you with this truth, and I don't need to manage your reaction. I just wanted you to know." That kind of calm confidence is unforgettable. It separates you from the noise. And ironically, it's in that silence, those unspoken seconds, that she feels most heard. So next time you say something real, don't chase the moment. Hold it. Let her feel it in her bones. Then walk away if you must, because if it was true, it'll echo long after you're gone. Now pause and ask yourself, do you let your words breathe, or do you rush to fill the silence? Comment below. I speak, then I let it echo. Number 8, the compliment that no one else sees because no one else looks. Most men look, but few truly see. And that's the difference between a compliment that lands and one that lingers, between making her smile politely and making her stop, question, and remember. It all starts with one thing: deep observation, not analysis, not judgment, but awareness. The kind that doesn't just notice the obvious, her smile, her dress, her laugh, but catches the subtle shift in tone when she talks about her childhood, the glance to the floor before she answers a question, the way she tightens her grip on a coffee cup when the room grows loud. You're not just trying to be poetic, you're building a skill. The Stoics called it presence. Psychology calls it mindful attention. But what it really means is this: you're here. You're actually here, not in your head, not crafting your next line, not reading her like a checklist. You're observing her the way you'd watch the ocean if someone told you the next wave might change your life. According to research by Kabat-Zinn 1990, conscious attention improves emotional awareness. It trains your brain to pick up on micro signals most people overlook. And for a woman, being seen in this way without interruption, without interpretation, creates something powerful. Emotional safety. It says, you don't have to broadcast who you are. I'm already listening. Now let's make it real. You're at a party. She's smiling, laughing, floating between groups. Most guys compliment her energy. You notice something else. The way she pauses in the corner sometimes. The way she surveys the room when she thinks no one's watching. Later, you tell her, you seem like someone who plays both roles, the life of the party and the quiet observer who's always decoding it. That balance is rare, and you leave it there. No punchline, no flirt, just the truth. Or maybe she's talking about her family and her voice suddenly drops. Softer, careful. Instead of nodding along, you say, you became gentler when you mentioned them, like you're protecting something sacred. That says a lot about you. That's not just a compliment, that's recognition. And recognition is addictive. But this doesn't happen by accident. You don't guess your way into insights like this. You train for them. You start paying attention in every conversation. You journal what people do when they feel nervous, excited, defensive. You watch the rhythm of speech, the shifts in eye contact. And most importantly, you stop trying to impress and start trying to understand. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Spend time to see things as they are. Let not your emotions cloud your vision." In practice, that means removing your agenda. You're not watching her to gain access or affection. You're watching because truth matters, presence matters, and because once in a while someone deserves to be seen. This is what makes a compliment unforgettable. Not because it flatters her ego, but because it mirrors her soul. And the moment you give her that mirror, she'll never look at herself or you the same way again. Now, take a breath, be still, and next time you're with her, don't just listen, notice, then comment below. I see what others overlook. A true compliment isn't just a word. It's a subtle mirror, reflecting back a part of her that she doesn't even dare to see. It's not about making her like you. It's about making her never forget how you feel when you see her. And here's the point that most men miss. You don't have to be the most attractive person in the room. You just have to be the only person who really sees her. Not for her looks, not for her show, for the things she doesn't show off but secretly hopes someone will notice. If you find the value here different from the how to pick up girls videos out there, then subscribe, hit the bell, and comment on the video with this sentence: "I compliment with understanding, not to flatter." See you in the next Stoic love video, where words not only seduce but also awaken the true nature of relationships.